The stock market moves fast, with countless interventions taking place over the years. Any period of slow growth or falling levels has always been met with more stimulus. This can come from the Fed and their many programs, or from the government's big taxpayer-funded bottomless pockets. Either way, it creates ridiculous distortions that are so blatant, and yet it only gets worse every single cycle. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the distortions that have been created. It is truly unfortunate to see how these really affect the lives of individuals, because when you have a problem that's being covered up, it isn't able to show its true self and therefore cannot be resolved. What I'm trying to say essentially is that if we had these problems right in front of our face, if we had the real unemployment rate that's shown for the public to see, if the food bank lineups were on the cover of the front page, there would be more actions devoted toward that. Instead, you show an unemployment rate of whatever it is, 7.9%, or whatever laughable number that they decide, and they say that the economy is getting better. It's not as if it's a placebo effect. Oh, somebody's getting hired, maybe it'll be my turn next. It doesn't work like that. This is actually something that is doing a disservice to the public. I'm trying to do my part here to bring it to you. I hope that you appreciate it. I've got a lot of information today. Let's begin. The number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits rose last week by the most in 2 months. That's 898,000, a historically high number, and evidence that layoffs remain a hindrance to the economy's recovery. The chart here is the initial unemployment claims, and obviously there has been this exaggerated move that occurred. Now it has moved down quite significantly, but it is still elevated. That's important to note, because while they have intervened at this level, they've been unable to get it down anywhere near where it was last year, let's say. That's a problem. Their resolutions never seem to actually surface, but here we are. 8 million have slipped into poverty since May as federal aid has dried up. Here we have a situation that has never been something that the media wants to point out for the most part, and yet the tent cities are everywhere. The struggle is certainly present, and there's no possible way that a CARES Act or a Federal Reserve Main Street lending program is going to be the actual solution, but they'll do it anyway. If you want to see more details about this, I didn't really want to get into it in depth. Definitely check it out. I'll leave the link in the description as always. Unemployment was supposed to be temporary. Now it's permanent for almost 4 million people. So this is the situation that we've discussed many times before over the last few months. Don't worry, it's just a furry furlough. It's just a kitten. It's just a unicorn. And here we are. Nearly 13 million Americans were unemployed in September. That's about 7 million more workers than we had earlier this year. The early part of the recession was characterized by temporary layoffs or furloughs. In fact, they're different things, but now the two are confused. But permanent job loss is rising. A growing share of workers are also long-term unemployed, meaning that they've been out of work for more than 6 months. We have got into depth as to what all of the different definitions are, how they actually manipulate the unemployment rate to look much better than it is, and so on. I've done many videos about this before. I know my regular subscribers on here know exactly what I'm talking about, so I'm going to move on. I've shown this page multiple times over the years. It comes directly from the SSA website, and you can see something that to me was almost hard to believe, but this just gives you an idea of what people are earning in the United States. These numbers are the wage statistics for 2019, and I know this year is much worse, but you can see this is a quote right from their website. By definition, 50% of wage earners had net compensation less than or equal to the median wage. Okay? And check this out. That median wage is estimated to be, and I'll just write it larger so you could see it, $34,248. $34,000. Now, that right there might be good for some people. And if you've got two of those salaries in some of the smaller cities, in some of the smaller towns, you can certainly get by. When your house only costs $100,000, $200,000 at the most, certainly you can make ends meet. But if you're living in one of the bigger cities, that just won't cut it. And when you factor in the taxation, which I'll cover more in a minute, when you factor in all the expenses that people have and how the costs are rising every single day, it is just impossible. So while stocks are rising high and all of the attention is on the stock market, you look at all the news, it's talking about stocks. The average person, their wage hasn't increased, and maybe it's just ticking up at 1 or 2% per year on average. The Amazon stock price is simply not on their radar. Bloomberg had this report, but they are actually pulling the data from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. You have to read this to believe it. Tax burden equal to 70% rate crushes Americans unable to pay. Before we look at the chart, I just want to show you what they had to say here. Millions of low-income Americans are locked into poverty thanks to U.S. tax policy. About a quarter of the lower-income workers effectively face marginal tax rates of more than 70%. Just think about that. 70% is just gone. Now, how are you supposed to live on that 30%? Remember, those people earning that $34,000, imagine trying to take just 30% of that and live off of. It isn't very likely. For every $1,000 gained in income, $700 goes to the government in taxes or reduced spending. In some cases, there are no gains at all. There are more details in here. You could read the report itself from the Fed, but I just thought it would be interesting to look at really quickly because it connects in with the previous article. There's the chart for you, just showing you the median tax rates. Lowest quintile faces higher marginal tax rates than middle income earners. Now, the total amount of taxation largely is paid by the people who earn more money. The so-called rich people are paying like 90+%, depending on where it is, of all of the taxes, but not compared to their total salary. But if we taxed everybody, I say this all the time, but if we tax every single person, I'm talking about every single person, so 100% of the people pay 100% of their actual salary an entire year, that still would not make up for what the government needs. Think about how ridiculous that is. It's so gone. The system is so gone. It's mathematically impossible to ever fix. And we know that because of these simple indicators. New York exodus fuels gangbusters main real estate boom. So the people of New York, they're going to the Hamptons, they're going to other places. Maine happens to be one. I thought this was interesting because they're willing to go even further, perhaps getting into less dense populated areas that maybe are less expensive than the Hamptons. This is just one example. Greenwich home purchases soar to a decade high on New York City exodus. So you're looking at this right now today happening. The population of New York is declining. We are going to see less revenue coming in, and that's why they are trying to push higher taxes. This is a trend that's taking place not just in New York, but other areas as well. United Airlines is positioning itself to ride out a long downturn in air travel. That's right, they know what's coming and how long it's going to be before things get back up and running. As I have said many months ago, this is one industry that's going to be feeling it for a while. And as the economies do start to open up, the comfort level for many travelers simply will not be there. So it's not as if it will just rocket up higher. It's going to take some time. I told you about Qantas Airlines. They had a flight to nowhere and it sold out in 10 minutes or whatever it was. Singapore Air's A380 restaurant tickets sold in 30 minutes. So here's another one, same situation where people are just looking for something, and here it is. Reservations cost as much as $474 for suites and $40 in economy. They're trying every different method to get the revenue coming in. What's your opinion on this? I'd like to know. Please leave it in the comments below. Daily cash burn to continue till further notice. US air travelers are still minus 65%. Ticket prices are minus 25%. A toxic mix. Delta's Q3 passenger revenue is minus 83%. I have some charts in just a second, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that this is the one industry that I've seen so many different calls. Jim Cramer, other analysts saying, now's the time to buy the airlines. Now's the time to buy Carnival Cruises. I have no possible idea why they're telling you to do this, and how they give this type of advice is just beyond me. It is shameful and it needs to stop. Here's one of the charts that corresponds. You could see the red line, that's 2020, 2019, same weekday, 7-day moving average. Clearly it is down significantly. It's up from the bottom, but it is just nowhere near where they need to be. Airline ticket prices, just look at what has happened in 2020, where it depends on where you're looking, but ultimately the revenue is just not there on every level. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you are supporting me. Simply by clicking one button, you support this channel. Thank you very much. If you want to learn about e-commerce, you're interested in selling things on the internet, you can do that for free in my e-course, the AmazonGPS.com. The financial system is complex, it's convoluted, it's very difficult to understand, and that's on purpose. They want to make sure that you do not know the truth, but you can learn everything you need to know in my 2 books. Check them out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook instead, themoneygps.com. Wait a second, don't go anywhere. Have you seen this video? A lot to gather. Definitely check it out right here. Click it. I'll see you there.